Hi guys, so in today's tutorial I'm going to walk you through how to make this super cute bear with a heart. It's perfect for Valentine's gift and for advanced beginners. Check out my Instagram and remember to like and subscribe to not miss out on my weekly tutorials. Feel free to leave a comment below on other types of tutorials you'd like to see. So let's get started. In today's video you're going to need some scissors, some pins and a yarn needle, a 4mm crochet hook, 10mm safety eyes, a stitch marker. You're going to need 2 different types of chenille chunky yarn. You're then also going to need some black acrylic yarn for the facial details and of course some toy filling. So let's get started. So for the bear we're going to start with the head. And the head starts with 6 single crochets in a magic ring. So like usual, to start my magic ring, I loop my yarn over these 2 fingers like so. And again, this is just the way I do it, but feel free to check out other YouTube tutorials on magic rings. But I go under these first 2 loops, I pull up this last loop and pull through. And then I pull up this loop again and pull through. And we're going to do that 6 times to get our 6 single crochets in a magic ring. So I'm going to keep going under these 2 loops on my finger and pulling up and single crocheting as normal. I like to do it this way because I find it quite a secure way by keeping it on my fingers. It means I find it particularly less fiddly. And yeah, I just prefer it this way, but like I say, there's plenty of other ways you can do it, so just find the one that's easiest for you. So for this way, I then pull the yarn furthest away from me and then I pull it to close the circle. So we now have our 6 single crochets in a magic ring. I'm going to place my stitch marker in the loops from the hook, and in round 2 we're going to do 6 increases. So an increase is when we go into each stitch twice. So we're going to go into this first stitch and single crochet as normal, and then we're going to go back into the same stitch and single crochet again, and that is our increase, doing 2 single crochets into each stitch. So we're going to keep doing that in each stitch. Back into the same one. So at the end of round 2 you should have a total of 12 stitches from having gone into each stitch twice. Round 3 we're going to do a single crochet and an increase, and we're going to do that 6 times to take our total up to 18. So in the first stitch we're just going to do 1 single crochet. In the second stitch we're going to do an increase, so we're going to do 2 single crochets. So there's our first one. We're going to go back into the same stitch and do our second one, and we're going to repeat that until we get all the way back to our stitch marker. So 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets in the next. So the end of round 3 we should have 18 stitches in total. Round 4 we're going to do 2 single crochets and an increase all the way around. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first 2 stitches and then an increase in the third, and then we're going to repeat that until we get back to our stitch marker. So 2 single crochets and then an increase. Round 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets and an increase. Round 6, we're going to do 4 single crochets and an increase, again 6 times until we get to our stitch marker, and that should give us a total of 36 stitches in total. Round 7, we're going to do 5 single crochets and an increase, and this will take our total up to 42. This will be our last round of increases. So for rounds 8 to 13, we're just going to do 42 single crochets. So for each round, we're just going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I'll meet you back at the end of round 13. So now we're at the end of round 13. You should have this half dome shape, like so. Round 14, we're going to do 5 single crochets and a decrease. So how we're going to do that is we're going to do our 5 single crochets as normal. And then we're going to do an invisible decrease. So to do that, we're going to go into the front loop of this next stitch, like so. And we're going to pull up and pull through this front loop as normal. We're then going to go into the front loop of the next stitch again, pull up and pull through the front loop again. So we've got 3 loops on our hook, and we're then going to pull through all 3 loops, and that is our invisible decrease. We're going to do that again, so 5 single crochets, and then an invisible decrease. So we're going to go into the front loop of this next stitch, pull through, so we've still got 2 loops on our hook, into the front loop of the next stitch, pull through, and then pull through all 3 remaining loops. And we're going to carry that on until we get back to our stitch marker. At the end of round 14, we should have 36 stitches in total. Round 15, we're going to do 4 single crochets and an invisible decrease. So we're going to do the decreases exactly how we just did it, going through the front loops of each. At the end of round 15, we're then going to place our safety eyes. So the safety eyes are going to go between rounds 11 and 12, approximately 5 stitches apart. Once you've got your safety eyes in the position you want them, we're then going to place the backs on to secure them in place. and then we're going to add some stuffing to our head. Round 16, we're going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease, and that's going to take our total down to 24 stitches. Round 17, we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease to get our total down to 18. Before we carry on, we're going to stuff the head again. Making sure we're keeping its shape. In the last round, round 18, we're just going to do a single crochet and a decrease until we get to our stitch marker, and that should give us a total of 12 stitches. Stuff the head one last time, and then we're going to move on to the body. So the first round of the body, round 19, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch, keeping our total at 12 stitches. Round 20, we're going to do a single crochet and an increase 6 times to get up to 18 stitches in total. So single crochet, and then in the next stitch we're going to do 2 single crochets for an increase, and then we're going to repeat that. Round 21, we're just going to single crochet in each of the 18 stitches. Round 22, we're going to do 2 single crochets and an increase. We're going to do that 6 times to get our total up to 24 stitches. For the next 8 rounds, rounds 23 to 30, we're just going to single crochet 24. So a single crochet into each stitch for the next 8 rounds. So I'll meet you back at the end of round 30. So now at the end of round 30, we're going to stuff the body. And we want to make sure we're stuffing the neck to avoid it being floppy. So you just want to keep turning it as you stuff to make sure it's evenly distributed. So once you feel like your head is propped up enough and is stuffed enough, then you can carry on with the rest of the body. But don't worry about doing it too much just yet, because next we're going to split this body into two parts and carry on onto the legs. So how we're going to do that is with the eyes facing forward, we're just going to basically squeeze the body together and use our stitch marker to get the middle stitch of each side. And each side should consist of 12 stitches. So we're just going to go around and check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then this side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so that's definitely in the middle. So we are good to go and start on the legs. So depending on where your yarn is to the stitch marker, you're going to crochet until you get to the stitch marker. But I'm basically on it. So what we're going to do is we're then going to join the two parts together with a crochet. So we're going to go through the first side in the same hole as the stitch marker is, and again into the other side where the stitch marker is. Feel free to move it if it's in your way, but just for this video I'm keeping it there. And then we're going to single crochet as normal. So the legs have now been, well, the body's now been split into two legs. And then we're going to carry on single crochet into each stitch until we get back to where we started. So we've now done one round for the leg, and we're going to do this for 3 more rounds. So until round 4, we're just going to keep doing 12 single crochets. So once you've done 4 rounds of the first leg, we're going to stuff it before we then close it. So make sure you're stuffing it right from the body as far as you can go. So once you've got your leg pretty full with its stuffing, we're then going to start closing this leg. In the last round, we're going to do 6 decreases. Then we're going to cut the yarn, leaving a long enough tail to sew up the hole. So we're going to take our yarn needle, and again, if you want to do one little last minute stuff, which I might do, you can just use the end of your crochet hook just to move it around like so and get it in those small gaps. And then to close off, we're going to go into each stitch into each decrease that we just did in the previous round, and then we're going to pull it close, and that closes up that hole. We'll do a few more stitches just to tack it in place. Make sure it's not going to come loose or anything. And then we can weave this tail in and close off and move on to the next leg. So now we've done one leg, we're going to work into the next leg. So how we're going to do that is pretty much the same as the first, but we need to join our yarn on. So we're going to join our yarn in the stitch with the hook in. We're going to put our hook through and pull through the yarn like so, and then chain one. And then we're going to work round this leg like we did with the other. So we should have a total of 12 stitches. Okay, so once we get to this middle part, I'm going to take this stitch marker out just to get it out the way, but we're going to work into these two stitches that we see here. And then one more over here. And then we're back to where we began. So like the other leg, we're going to do 3 more rounds. So we've got a total of 4 rounds, and there shouldn't really be any holes in between. If there is, then we can go back and sew them up, but hopefully where we've stitched them, there shouldn't be any kind of appearing. So we've done 4 rounds of the second leg, so now we're going to stuff it. Again, making sure that we're pushing it as far back into the body as we can so that it joins well. And there's no lumps or bumps anywhere. Okay, and for the last round, again, we're going to do 6 decreases. I'm gonna cut the yarn, leave a long tail for sewing, and then stuff the leg a little bit more to finish off. Then we're just going to close up the hole . So now the body is done, we're going to move on to the arms. So the arms are going to start with 5 single crochets in a magic ring. Round 2, we're going to do 5 increases to get our total up to 10. For rounds 3 to 6, we're just going to do a single crochet in each stitch. So we're going to do 10 single crochets for the next 3 rounds. Okay, once you get to the end of round 6 of the arms, we're just going to stuff it. We don't need to go too overboard with the stuffing. In round 7, we're going to do a single crochet and a decrease 3 times, and then a single crochet in the last stitch, and it should end up with 7 stitches in total. Rounds 8 to 10, again we're just going to single crochet in each stitch, so we're going to do 7 single crochets for each round, and I'll meet you back at the end of round 10. Once we finish the rounds, we're going to flatten the arms and we're going to do 3 single crochets through each side to stitch them together. And then we're going to cut the yarn, leaving a long tail to sew onto the body. So we're going to repeat that again to make 2 arms in total. Now I've finished the arms, we're going to move on to the ears. So the ears are going to start with 6 single crochets in a magic ring. Round 2, we're going to do 6 increases to get a total of 12 stitches. And rounds 3 and 4, we're just going to do 12 single crochets. Once you finish round 4, we're just going to cut the yarn, leaving a long tail for sewing onto the head. And then we're going to repeat for the second ear. So I've now got my 2 ears, I'm going to move on to the muzzle. So the muzzle is going to start with 6 chains. So we're going to chain 6. Feel free to do the muzzle in a different colour. Some people like doing it in white or whatever colour really, but I'm just going to keep it with the same colour as my bear. Chained 6. We're going to continue working around this foundation chain, and we're going to start in the second chain from the hook. We're going to do an increase, and then 3 single crochets in the next 3 stitches. And in this last remaining stitch, we're going to do 4 single crochets. Then we're going to turn our work and work down the other side of the foundation chain. So we're going to do 3 single crochets. And then we're going to end with an increase in the last stitch. In round 2, we're going to start with a single crochet and then an increase. Then 3 single crochets, another increase, 2 single crochets, increase in the next stitch, three single crochets, then an increase, and 1 final single crochet. In the last round, round 3, we're going to do 18 single crochets. Again, we're going to leave a long tail for sewing onto the head.